Awesome. All right, welcome to Life's Not Linear. Happy Monday. And today I get to interview a good friend of mine, Erin Magennis. And I'm excited to learn more about her, and I'll have her introduce herself.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be a part of this. So I'm Erin Magennis. I'm a serial social impact entrepreneur. Basically, I'm all about just helping people tap into their optimal self and live their best life.
That's awesome. Yes. Okay. So, Erin, before we get to all the different things that you do, because there's so many, could you give us a little bit of maybe backstory of kind of a little bit about you and then how that led you here?
Definitely. So growing up, I played every single sport that I could get my hands on. And I had a pretty, like normal childhood, I guess. I enjoyed school, I enjoyed learning, had a good number of friends, enjoyed playing sports. And then my freshman year of high school, I ended up getting sick. And we couldn't figure it out at the beginning. It just came on as pain, fatigue, and we're like, oh, maybe it's the flu, maybe it's mono, who knows? So then I kind of went down a whole medical journey of trying to figure out what was going on with my body. And luckily, my diagnosis came after only a handful of months, and they told me I have a condition called POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is a form of dysautonomia. Also, the reason they say POTS is because that's a lot of big words.
Yeah.
But basically, it just means that my body doesn't manage the automatic functions as well as other people's bodies might. So that might be temperature, brain cognition, heart rate, circulation, digestion, things like that. So I had to drop out of sports, every extracurricular activity. I didn't have the energy to hang out with friends or kind of do anything that a normal high schooler might be doing, and really just had to pivot and focus on my own health and just getting through each day. It came completely out of the blue. We don't know what triggered it, what caused it. We have different theories, but nothing kind of concrete, and it's not curable. So it's definitely something that I've had to learn to manage over time. And symptoms will rise and fall, and I think I have a good grasp on it, and then it pivots a little bit. But from this, I really started learning things about holistic health and just how can I be more in tune with my own body and help it just work as good as it possibly can. So I dove into nutrition a bit as well. Got a few certifications as a holistic health practitioner, therapeutic nutritional counselor, eventually went on to do group fitness, yoga, other certifications like that as well. But in high school, I was able to really find kind of a passion point of, I learned all of this stuff for myself. It can probably help someone else too. So I started a business in high school, teaching different people, coaching them. This was once I had a bit of my own health stuff kind of more managed. Then I went on to college. I studied neuroscience in college and dove deeper into innovative thinking, entrepreneurship, and kind of the whole startup world. But that was all outside of kind of my formal education. And I was on the way to start applying to MD, PhD programs. And then my last semester of college, I decided that I might want to go get a sense of the world, go check out the private sector. How can we help people be healthier or live their best life through health tech or a health tech startup, which is where I kind of dove into pursuing Calmlet, which is an app that helps people manage stress and anxiety in the moment. And from there, I've gone on to start a few other organizations as well. So it's definitely been a lot of different pivots over time, oftentimes prompted by things outside of my own doing. But I don't know. I think through it, I've learned that even when things don't happen according to plan, the new path can be pretty cool too.
That's a great point. Um, and I'm wondering, back in high school when you first found out about POTS and like your health diagnosis, um, what I imagine that was like pretty shocking. Like not only like mentally shocking, but then how you had to live your life was, flipped.
Yeah.
And how were you able to handle that transition, um, and navigate like that ambiguity and, especially when your health like ebbs and flows, when you have a good grasp and when you don't, like how do you kind of stay hopeful and positive through that?
Yeah, so when I was kind of in the thick of it, or first kind of getting sick, it was kind of just like focusing on making it through the day. Like within a month's time, I went from playing on my high school swim, soccer, and like about to try out for the varsity basketball teams to not being able to walk up my driveway or a flight of stairs. So that's like a drastic change and just decrease in functioning. So all of my energy was pretty much just focused on existing.
Mm-hmm.
so so I didn't even have like enough energy to put towards like, oh, let's maintain hope, or let's
Yeah.
kind of like think about these other things. I was just thinking about, okay, maybe I can make it to a few hours of school today. And luckily my teachers all saw me go from this like vibrant young person to like a ghost of a human. So they were really supportive in that whole process. And I know that for some other people that's not always the case. So I'm really blessed that they were supportive of just working with me and different like disability accommodations I had to get into place. But like that was an entire fight too. So it wasn't just like they were like, oh, here, let's do all these things. Like I had to be like, hey, I need these things.
Mm-hmm.
Please support me, which I think is a really important lesson, kind of that I'm grateful for learning. Just that even when things may not be going according to plan and we might need some different support along the way, like we aren't going to get it if we don't ask for it and advocate for ourselves. Yeah.
I think that's, something that's often looked over when it comes to health, is that we kind of just expect doctors or people to like know what we're feeling or know what we need, and sadly sometimes we need to advocate a lot for our health when it comes to even just like seeing your primary doctor, like, no, like I need this, or this is how I'm truly feeling. And I think that's a really good point, that especially a lot of like younger people or college age kids who, this is like maybe the first time that they've handled their own doctor appointments and stuff like that, and knowing that, you know come with questions and, you know ask again and stuff like that. So that's a great
And
point.
also, if it's not working out, find someone new. Like
Mm-hmm.
my primary care physician that had seen me for a good portion of like my growing up and like through kind of the beginning of when I was kind of at my worst, like he didn't follow up with anything, didn't help with really getting me into specialists, and was honestly like doing a terrible job.
Yeah.
So after a period of time, like I got rid of him. Like I fired him as my doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to deal with another doctor like that. So I went around and interviewed a handful of other physicians just to find one that was a good fit, which I'm so glad I did, because like working with someone that you don't work well with isn't gonna work. And like
Yeah.
we're paying them to do their job, and if they aren't, like we have a right to take that ownership back and choose what we want for ourselves. Yeah.
That's a great point. And so I guess over the years, like how, and I want to go towards the direction of the holistic healing. Um, how did you kind of like start that journey, and how have you been able to learn about like your body so well, and what prompted you to like go that route, like Western medicine versus Eastern and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so because there, so I was diagnosed with these things about almost 8 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bit more research now, but still there aren't any like, oh, here's a go-to medication for that, or
Mm-hmm.
here's a go-to treatment. Um, so with that, like different doctors would just kind of be reaching and grabbing for medications out of the blue. One of my physicians, he's like, we don't know what we're doing. We're literally reaching back in the dark, grabbing something and seeing if that will work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And after a handful of medications that had kind of terrible side effects that would last beyond just me taking that medication, we didn't know what were my symptoms anymore versus side effects. And we didn't know what my baseline was of what I even needed to get treated. So he suggested a drug holiday. And so I went on that just to see what
Mm-hmm.
my symptoms actually were. And from there, I was really able to dive deeper into more holistic practices, see naturopathic physician, and I've seen a good gamut of different types of acupuncturists, chiropractors, energy healers, reflexologists. Like I've tested out a good range of all of those different types of practitioners, and I found benefits for different types of symptoms or where I was at different points in time. And then through that, I did some food sensitivity testing to find out just what my body is reacting to, because I wasn't absorbing nutrients, and we kind of need that to live and
Yeah.
function, you know? So from there, I had a very reduced diet, but that allowed my body the space to be able to heal itself and not just get bombarded by a new threat, which
Mm-hmm.
might be a piece of celery, but like my body couldn't deal with that celery. So now that's a threat. And by staying away from that and a good handful of other foods, I was able to reduce that inflammation and start actually being able to absorb foods again, which was kind of that first initial step back to regaining some of my strength, because I lost like almost all of my muscle and it just kind of withered away. But if we aren't eating well and surrounding ourselves with good things, we can't really expect our state to be functioning well, at least in my opinion.
I'd say science also backs your opinion. No,
Yeah.
that's true. Um, that's awesome. And so, kind of going more micro, I guess, what does maybe your daily practices look like when it comes to your more holistic side of healing, and just like how you treat your state of being?
So I exercise every morning, and that's kind of a huge thing for me just to get my body going. And there are tons of studies that back up the benefits of exercise too.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID, I was swimming every morning, and then
Oh
now
wow.
I'm doing a lot of home workouts, just like in the living room. I've also gotten into biking. I'd never gotten into biking at all before, so I'm really enjoying that. And there's some nice trails nearby. I think the food is definitely a piece of it. I am vegan and gluten-free, and that works really, really well for my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that definitely helps me to maintain like just good functioning, and I feel better when I stick to that type of diet. And there's so many great foods that can be made
Yeah.
and then I think nature is also a big piece. When the weather is decent, I try to get outside for a bit, hike around in different state forests or county parks, or go on bike rides, or take my dog around. She likes that.
Mm-hmm.
And then some version of meditation, journaling, yoga, in varying frequencies, depending on what my body is kind of craving. Some days I might just need to go internal and do a bit more processing. So maybe that comes in the form of a longer journaling session.
Mm-hmm.
Other days, maybe I need more flow of movement through my body, and that comes in the form of a longer yoga or breathing type of exercise. So that piece of it kind of ebbs and flows, and I definitely will kind of go in different spurts of like, oh, I'm really into this type of meditation for a long time, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm over it, and then go into a deeper practice of some other type of breathing exercise or yogic practice. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And then I just want to touch on also kind of your collegiate career and more so what you're doing now as well. So how you made that shift from neuroscience to no longer wanting to go to med school to your experience in life, and you have a lot of eggs in different baskets. So
Yeah. So throughout all of college, I pretty much like only took science classes. Like there were a few other gen eds I had to do, and on summer breaks, I definitely took a good handful of courses at different community colleges, technical colleges, which I highly recommend, just from a financial standpoint, as well as being able to free your schedule up for other unique opportunities that I was able to take advantage of, whether that be taking on more of a managerial role at one of my jobs in college, or taking on a new research project because I have credits available to focus on that type of thing. So yeah, I pretty much just focused on neuroscience, biology, chemistry in college. And then outside of college, I was fairly active in the startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, speaking at different events, attending as many different conferences and events as I could. Oh, back to the concept of like, what do I do to take care of myself? Travel is definitely a really good resetter, just getting me in a different mindset, like mind space, meeting new people, just being in kind of a different energy of existence. And oftentimes for me, that comes in the form of like going to a conference or some type of event, and then tacking on some extra days on the end of it. So throughout college, starting my freshman year, I took part in the Commons, which is an entrepreneurial skills accelerator program, and I was actually able to lead a startup team there, which was a really unique experience of just being able to work with students from other disciplines and domains. And even though I didn't have a business background or business major or anything, I was still able to be the leader of a business team and work with mentors and just kind of learn that whole like realm of taking other people's advice who have so much knowledge, incorporating that into my own understanding, mixed with like what visions I might have, and then trying to move forward with it. So that kind of kicked me off into kind of the whole startup ecosystem, and really diving into, oh, if you have an idea, you can pursue it, or you can bring it to life or share it with other people, and they might think it's cool too and want to join you. So if we fast forward then to my last year of school, it was like at the halfway mark around December, January, and I was looking at studying for the MCAT and just like, what am I, like, next steps? What does my life look like? And I really kind of decided that I wasn't thrilled with where the current medical school education like curriculum is at, and I think that there will be a lot of really unique innovations within the next couple of years in terms of telemedicine, or in terms of just how we might be able to better leverage technology and different resources rather than trying to cram it into people's heads, rather than teaching them how to think about new approaches. And I think part of that also stemmed from just some different single-minded thinking that I had experienced from previous doctors and the whole medical system. So I figured, okay, I'll put a pause on that, wait until the world has curriculums or education or a system that I'm actually really, really excited for, rather than just feeling like I'm settling for, and dive into building out like Calmlet, which helps people manage stress and anxiety. It's able to incorporate my interest in research and data with yoga, meditation, with neuroscience, and my fascination with like innovative thinking and approaches, and the interdisciplinary intersection of different things that I think are interesting, while helping people in a domain that is so important. Like our mental health is so key to everything that we do in life. Yeah.
Agreed. I'm so glad that you were able to recognize that, just like where the current state of like medical curriculum was at and like where you want to be. I mean, me myself, like, or a lot of high school seniors like going into college or when they pick a major, I feel like a lot of times it's like, okay, this title will get me a job, and it's not like, okay, let me look at the entire course catalog and see if this interests me and if I'm gonna learn what I think I'm gonna learn. So,
or even if I like it, or if I'm any good at it.
yeah.
You know.
Awesome. Well, I want to wrap up with learning a bit about what you do now, and then we'll go.
Yeah. So I have kind of fully embraced the whole startup approach, and just kind of going back to what you said before of having eggs in a lot of different baskets. I've always liked having a lot of different things going at a time. So kind of just starting to recognize that and lean into like, oh, I enjoy this. I don't have to choose just one. But like benefits do come from staying focused. So I'm still in the process of learning that right now. But a few of the different startups that I have, one is called F2 Social, and it's a social media marketing company focused on more social impact initiatives, and really just helping people who have a really good mission, story, brand, or people or organizations that can kind of help make the world a better place. So that's kind of how it ties into my underlying mission. And like the internet is such a great way for us to be able to connect to one another. It has so much powerful potential for good and connectivity. And if we can start leaning into using it in that way, a lot of amazing things can come out of it. So that's one of my eggs in a basket. Another one is called Workaround, which is focused on helping people who are remotely working, or might just be in a more kind of isolated work environment. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, small business owner. Maybe they travel a lot, so they just don't have that community aspect. Building out a virtual and in-person eventually community where people can share space and share the challenges they might be facing right now. And oftentimes the challenges I might be facing, you may have learned kind of that lesson already and might be able to teach me exactly what I might need to know, or provide a different perspective, help me get through this. And then what you're challenged with right now, I might just have a different perspective that could help you move forward. So it's much more of a collective, and together we can all kind of win together. And then Calmlet, and I'm doing a bit of like strategic consulting for different startups as well, just from a variety of different accelerator programs that I've been through and other business experience that I have had as well. And diving into that intersection of personal well-being to help your business be as successful as it can be, tied in with how technology can support that, how mindset can support that, how innovative thinking can support that. So these are kind of my main focuses right now, and then a bit of other like civic volunteer work in the community. Just try and do my part to make this a good place for us all to live.
That's a lot of eggs. What made you choose going the more startup route versus like corporate? I feel like a lot of, one of the big decisions when you're looking for jobs out of college is like, what's the starting salary? What's the benefits? And sometimes we overlook like our own needs and wants to look at those types of things.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of see this period of my life as education 2.0, like learning the real world, learning how business works, how different people work, how like society or structures and groups of people work, and also just a playground for me to explore what am I good at, what do I like doing, and just having all of these different opportunities to kind of lean into like, oh, that's a cool idea, let's explore it. And luckily I'm in a position where I don't have like finances looming over my head. I moved back in with my parents, so I don't have like rent kind of weighing on my mind, which like I like spreadsheets, I like all of that type of stuff. And I know that for myself, if I would have had that, I would have limited myself in terms of, and probably forced myself to go more that corporate route, or doing things that I wouldn't enjoy and that I wouldn't help me grow to kind of the next stages of where I want to grow into. So I think having that space and not feeling these external pressures constantly pushing and pulling on us to go other directions is a huge factor. And I think also just through all of my medical stuff, I've just kind of learned that like you have to do what's best for you. And like you're the one that knows you the best. So if you're listening to these so-called experts, they might not really know what is the best option for you or what will happen in the future. I mean, I think right now is a great kind of portrayal of we don't know what the future holds, but we can control how we respond to it and what role we want to play in it.
Thank you so much for being on Life's Not Linear and sharing like all your experiences and everything you've learned. I'm really excited for students to watch this and hopefully take a lot from what you've experienced.
Yeah. One of the things that I wish I would have learned earlier is just that the people you're connected to and your network is so powerful. So if there's anyone watching this that has a question or wants to connect, I'm more than happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.